Well, good morning, Lyon County.
Morning.
Good morning, Lyon County and George, Iowa.
Welcome to Lyon County's local news. Talk radio, local talk with a local twist. This is Lyon County News Radio, the radio edition. This is volume 112, number 19, episode 6 of our radio series. Craig Johnson alongside Millie Kroll and Cheryl Korselman. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Craig.
A lot of good stuff happening in Lyon County. Let's get right to it. Why don't you take your first announcements, Cheryl, and we'll get right to them here.
Well, we'd like to wish all the mothers within our hearing range a happy Mother's Day this Sunday.
You have to say it a little louder. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Yeah, there you go. I want to wish every mother a happy Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. That's right. What else is going on this Sunday? It seems like there's a lot going on.
Baccalaureate is this Sunday at 7 o'clock at the First Presbyterian Church in Little Rock.
And we've got the order of service and everything right on the front page of the newspaper this week.
Yes,
you can see what you're getting into there and who's doing it. And I know that the swing choir is going to be singing for special music, and there's a special message from Pastor Sean Mustian that's going to be bringing the encouragement, the exhortation to the graduates. So that's going to be happening. What time was that again?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Okay, so don't miss that. Let's see. Today.
Got music on?
I like it, but I'm going to fade it out. Today is the district track meet for the Boys and Girls District Regional meet at Sioux Central in Sioux Rapids. So they're traveling down there to run like the wind, and hopefully the wind will be at their back today if there's any wind at all.
And no rain.
No rain.
No rain. No more rain. And tomorrow, school will be in session all day. There was an early dismissal planned, but I think with all of the late season snow days, they're gonna take that afternoon back and put the kids through the paces at school. There's also a boys sectional golf meet at Boyden Hall Rolling Hills Golf and Country Club, and a co-ed track meet at Hull Rock Valley. That's all on Friday. And then, as you said, the baccalaureate service on Sunday, along with Mother's Day. Let's see. I think there's a few other announcements in the short stuff. We can get to those a bit later. Millie, you've got an important reminder for our listeners.
Yes, I want to remind everybody that they have till the end of the week to get junk from the garages and the basements down to the city shed for disposal. And also on Monday, May 14th, from 9 in the morning to 11, there will be a hazardous material collection also down by the shed there, the city shop shed. And things that you can take down there are like degreasers, waxes, solvents, things that should not be put into the garbage. The items they do not accept are ammunition and explosive, needles, empty containers, radioactive material, fire extinguishers, compressed gas cylinders, and pharmaceuticals. So if you have some of the old paint cans or anything in the garage, now is the time to get rid of them. And also the pesticides that maybe have been sitting in the garage for a couple of years that aren't any good anymore. So now is the time to get rid of them. So that's Monday.
Did you say that they don't want to accept any nuclear waste? Is that what that says?
Yeah, well,
they don't want any radioactive material.
Yeah,
okay,
pharmaceuticals
so
and
your plutonium
needles.
And that stuff will have to be disposed of another way.
Yeah, right.
Don't just throw it in the recycle bin, though.
No.
Take your what are considered hazardous type materials, and dispose of them the proper way. They've got a great opportunity for you to do that here.
Yes, we've done that for several years, and it's really a good way to get rid of some of that stuff. Because you don't want to put your old weed eater things and down the drain or anything.
Right. You know, I'm smiling here because I'm looking at the elementary school spring concert photos. It's a wonderful set of pictures. There's a bunch of kids throwing their head back and singing it loud and proud, aren't they? Loud and proud and pleasing the crowd. And those pictures are in the paper this week, as well as we've got some updates from casino grant recipients in there. So you can see how some of that casino grant money has been utilized in our community, which is a great thing. Also on the back page, we're kind of turning the corner towards graduation here, and we've got senior spotlights on the back page, and we've got, I think you said, 3 left to do, which will be in the paper this coming week, and in our graduation edition. So a lot of special content this week for graduation. Don't want to miss that. And if you have a subscription, it'll land right on your doorstep or in your mailbox. If you don't have a subscription, get a hold of us here at the paper, 475-3351, and go ahead and get one. It's a great value for the money, and you get all of the updates from school and the community in Lyon County at large and the areas surrounding the county. There's a couple of school notes in here. Ashley Steuven was one of the students at the World Food Prize Iowa Youth Institute. There's a great write-up about that. And a book bash competition was held at GLR Middle School, and there's a big article about that. So you're going to want to get the paper in your hands this week if you don't already have it while you're tuned into the program this morning. Get your hands on it and go through it. Comb through the paper. A lot of great information there. Some Mother's Day specials from some of our area merchants. You want to check those out. And check out the Business and Professional Directory. We've got Ector's Greenhouse. I want to welcome them aboard. And again, if you need your lawn mowed, call Jim Cannigator. He's at 475-2586. Those are our 2 newest additions to the Business and Professional Directory. Also, you'll see those business cards sprinkled throughout our digital edition found at LionCountyNews.com on the articles contained therein. Well, today we have a special interview that we're going to be queuing up for you in just a moment from the county attorney race. Last week we aired an interview with the incumbent, Sean Mayer, and this week we've got the challenger. That's Melinda Folkens, and she's on interview answering some of the questions about why she's running and her background and so forth. So we'll tune to that in just a moment. Any closing thoughts here, ladies, as we turn the corner towards that interview?
Not really. There's lots of things going on at school, so...
Turning the corner towards summer here.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Don't rely on your child's backpack to get the news home to you. And if we have any information, we'll pass those along as timely as possible. Well, as is customary, Meals on Wheels announcement, the 7th through the 11th, that's Brian and Rachel Anderson, and then the May 14th through 18 is Byron and Glenda Schrick. So if these people arrive at your door and you're expecting Meals on Wheels, these are the people bringing you those meals. So kindly let them in the door to bring that meal to you. And then
we should also thank all of our teachers.
Yes, Teacher Appreciation Week.
Teacher Appreciation Week.
Thank you for that reminder. So thank a teacher, thank your mom, and if your mom's a teacher, thank her twice. I want to say thanks to all the teachers that make the school district such a great place for our kids to learn and thrive and to grow. Also, let's talk about grain prices. That's in the corner of the front page here. This is the May, July, and November corn price, $3.61, $3.64, and $3.70. And then the bean prices for May, July, and November, $9.31, $9.35, and $9.37. So those prices are on a slow ramp upward, and that's a good thing. So, boy, that's an interesting sound. What is that? Is that our phone ringing? Our phone is ringing here. The phone number here is 475-3351. We'll get to that call in just a moment. From the Clarence Stubbe Weather Bureau, we had an inch and 15 hundredths of rain for the week. and that's up from 800s last year during this week. So thanks for tuning in, and now turn your attention to this interview from candidate Melinda Folkens for Lyon County Attorney.
We are talking with Melinda Folkens, candidate for Lyon County Attorney. Welcome to the broadcast, Melinda.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for reaching out and for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak on your show this morning. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, well, thanks also for the opportunity to visit with you a little bit about your run for the office. Let's just start out with why you're running for the position of Lyon County Attorney.
It's a job I've always wanted to do, something I've always kind of had in the back of my mind. And over the last few years, I've had people from various county departments approach me and say, we've got some problems, why don't you run? We could really use you in the office. So over the course of those years, I've kind of thought about it and tossed the idea around in the back of my mind. And until recently, it wasn't something I felt personally I could do, just because my son at this time is a junior in school. And I know with a job like this, there's certain backlash as far as if you're arresting or being involved in an investigation or criminal prosecution of a parent, of a classmate, or even a classmate themselves, that would cause some problems for him. And I didn't want that for him. So it's something I've decided now that he's going to graduate next year. And after hearing from so many people that now's the right time for me personally, but more importantly, also the right time for the county to get some change and get some things changed in the office of the county attorney. So that's kind of why I've decided to do this.
In your opinion, how important then is experience and dedication to success in the position of county attorney?
I think they are both critical, experience and dedication. And I'll hit on my own experience first. I graduated high school at Central Lyon in 2000. And since that time, I have only worked in law firms and law enforcement since, other than pursuing my education. So after I graduated high school, I started out working in a law firm, doing secretarial work, paralegal work. I did bookkeeping work. Then I went on and worked at the Sioux Falls Police Department, where I was involved in investigations. I was there as a clerk, but they involved me, the detectives involved me in their investigations, in their intelligence meetings, and I really learned what it was like to do investigations into not only narcotics, but all sorts of criminal events. The entire detective bureau included me on things that went on in Sioux Falls, and I learned a lot there, and also have those relationships now to this day that I maintain with some of them. And I think that's important in our neck of the woods, being in a corner county, that we have good relationships with our neighboring states and counties, and that's something I think I could provide. After that time, I went on to work at one of the biggest law firms in the state of South Dakota as a paralegal. And while I was there and doing those jobs, I was also getting my paralegal degree, which is what my undergraduate degree is in. I have a 4-year paralegal degree and graduated summa cum laude, which is a fancy term for with highest distinction. After doing that, I decided to pursue law school, which was also something I had always wanted to do, but for personal reasons didn't work out till I was a little bit older. So went to Vermilion, drove from Rock Rapids the entire time. I've never left Lyon County as my home. I've put on a lot of miles driving, but never have left my home in Rock Rapids. So went to law school, graduated law school with high honors. I practiced in Rock Rapids after law school and did all sorts of general practice work. After that time, I was offered a job with the attorneys in Sioux Falls I had worked for prior as a paralegal. They called me one morning out of the blue and said, "Hey, we're starting our own law firm. Will you come work for us?" So I've been working with them ever since. The firm is Evans, Hagen, Hinton. The partners at this firm are 3 of the best litigators in the state of South Dakota, if you ask others, as well as have national recognition for the work they've done. So I've learned a lot while I've been here and been incredibly fortunate for the opportunities. And while they're sad I'm doing this, the first thing they said to me when I told them is, "We know your heart's always been in Lyon County and we support you." So that support means a lot. So in a nutshell, I have 20 years of experience working in a variety of areas of the law that would provide me a good base for being the next county attorney. That includes work in the criminal arena, the civil arena, family courts, juvenile law. I've done appellate work. So I have a good variety of experience behind me to help me in the position. As far as dedication goes, I think dedication may be even more important than experience to the success of the Lyon County Attorney. And I'll speak to you about my own dedication. I was born and raised on a farm east of Rock Rapids, northeast of Rock Rapids. My son is the fifth generation of both sides of my family to be a Lyon County resident. So my dedication to the county and my roots in the county are incredibly deep. It is important to me to be dedicated to Lyon County and to secure a safer future for everybody. Part of my dedication showed in the flood of 2014. Our home was flooded and virtually destroyed. And we were met with a lot of adversity, specifically from the city officials in Rock Rapids, in choosing to stay, and had a lot of battles we had to cross and things we had to do to be sure we could remain in our home, because it was important to me that we remain in our home. That was a home I had purchased when I was 21 years old as a single mom, working full-time, going to school full-time, and it meant more to me than just the structure. So we faced that adversity, and we chose to stay in Rock Rapids and stay in Lyon County and remain a taxpayer of the county. So that dedication, I think, is critical to having a little more heart in the job, as far as I have family investment, family roots. I'm a taxpayer, so it's important to me. And I think those things will speak strongly to the dedication. And I've always been told that, even if you don't have the experience or have the knowledge, with the dedication, you have the heart. And if you have the heart, you know what to do and where to find the right answers. And I think I offer that in this election.
Let's talk about what, in your opinion, is the most important thing for people in Lyon County to know about you.
I think the most important thing for people in Lyon County to know about me is how deeply I value integrity. Integrity is a word to me that was not really put into a word until my law school hooding. And at that time, 5 years ago, Attorney General of South Dakota, Marty Jackley, came to us and spoke. And he said that you only get one chance your whole life to lose your integrity. And that really spoke to me and has stuck with me ever since. And as I have looked back, even prior to that time, I have seen that that's been important to me and how I've lived my life. It just hadn't ever been put into a word. Way back in the day when I was in high school, I got inducted into the National Honor Society as a sophomore, which is a year earlier than most. So back then already, integrity was important to me. To me, integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. It involves honesty, and I've had some pretty honest moments in this election and in this campaign when people have asked me questions, and I've been very frank with them about why I'm doing things. I'm not a politician in the sense that I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. I say it how it is, and I say it how I see it, and that's the type of person I am. Also, part of integrity is I do not feel that I am above the law. I do not feel any of my family or friends are above the law. And I think everyone should be treated the same regardless of the position you hold. I have also made sure that my campaign has been run with integrity. I have been very cautious of not approaching businesses about putting up my signs or campaigning for me, because I will not put them in that situation. If businesses do have my signs, it's because they've come to me and asked for them. I've also been very careful about only putting signs out in places where people have asked and have granted permission to do so. And I've also been very cautious of the things I say, and I only speak the truth based on the information I have in running this campaign. I've been grooming myself for this position for years, in the sense that I have conducted my personal life in a manner that the people of Lyon County could be proud of. I'm sure I do things in a certain way so that I don't reflect poorly on the profession itself as an attorney, because we all know attorneys get a bad rap as it is. And I've done things and made decisions to make sure that that doesn't reflect on the profession, or in the event I would be honored to have this opportunity, I don't want it reflect poorly as an elected official on Lyon County. I also think part of integrity is hard work, and that's something that's instilled on you working on a family farm growing up. You learn that hard work wins the day, and whether you win or lose, at the end of the day, you still feel good about yourself for working hard and what you're doing. And that's kind of been what I've done my whole life. All these things I've told you I've done that while raising a son on my own. And I like to say he's a fairly respectful child. He knows right from wrong, and while he may not always implement that into his life, he knows the difference. So those are just some of the things that make up my integrity. As far as job experience, I had a situation where I was prevented from having access to my clients or representing my clients the way I felt they needed to be represented. And I walked out on that job and left me and my son without an income for 2 months and put that at risk simply because it was not the right thing. My clients were not getting the representation they deserved had I not done that. So those are just some examples and some things that I feel makes up integrity. And if you meet me on the street or talk to me a little bit, you probably don't see that about me, but that's truly who I am at my core.
So from your perspective, why don't you tell us about some of the problems that you see that Lyon County faces from a criminal standpoint?
Sure. I think there's a number of problems facing Lyon County. I think some of them we're aware of, but we're maybe not addressing as best we could. And I think some of them we're maybe aware of and just ignoring, and some of them we're maybe not even aware of. We live fairly sheltered in our small towns and aren't always aware of what's going on around us. I know when I worked at the police department in Sioux Falls 12 years ago, I was amazed at how many Lyon County names that I recognized came out in their drug investigations. And I can only imagine now, 12 years later, how much more that's gotten to be. So I do think drugs is a huge problem in Lyon County, as in every county. And I think that's something we need to address. We need to address it with more vigor. We need to address it with more maybe aggression. We need to work on finding out who those people are, getting the drugs off the streets, and to the extent there's rehabilitation services or things available, I think we need to work on that so that these people don't relapse, both from a punishment standpoint of you're punished for violating the law and your wrongdoing, but also from the standpoint of if there's help available, we're going to help you get it. So I think drugs is a big issue that Lyon County faces or Lyon County has that we're maybe not facing up to. I've also been approached by a lot of people in various cities that drugs are an issue in their small communities. We kind of have a lot of sleeper towns in Lyon County where maybe people from Sioux Falls are thinking they can just get by with it in these small towns. And we also have the mentality of being a get-out-of-jail-free county, and that's why people choose to reside in our small cities in our county and commit their criminal behavior. So I think drugs is a huge issue we need to address, and I don't think it's necessarily being done right now. I think we also have some problems with drinking and driving in the county that we need to address, and I think that's just an awareness and making those stops when needed, but also following through on prosecution of those cases. I'm aware of certain cases that there has not been follow through on the prosecution, and I think that's something that needs to be done. Another thing is the problem I understand that came to my attention recently is statutory rape. We have some statutory rape victims in Lyon County, and my understanding is the position of the incumbent is that we not prosecute the offenders of those statutory rape cases, and that is a huge concern to me. There shouldn't be any class of criminal that gets away with an offense simply because we don't believe in pursuing it. The law is written by the state of Iowa, and as the chief law enforcement officer, the county attorney's job is to pursue those issues based upon the way the law is written. So I think those are some things we need to address. We also have other issues that other counties have that flow from drug use, such as theft, break-ins, sexual abuse, assaults. We have all of those things that kind of flow from drugs, and some that maybe don't have anything to do with drugs. But I think we just need to get a little more assertive in what we're doing. We've recently had a drive-by shooting situation that was addressed fairly lightly, and I think that's a situation that we need to make sure we have a stance on so that we're not sending the wrong message in the future. So those are just some of the high points that I think we need to address in Lyon County from a criminal standpoint.
Can you talk about the sentencing aspect of the criminal prosecution and how that works?
Sure. I know this indeterminate sentencing is a big thing, and the comparison keeps being made to that's not how it's done in South Dakota. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how it's done in South Dakota. I've never practiced criminal law in South Dakota. I do civil law in South Dakota, so I don't know how it's done in South Dakota. But as far as the indeterminate sentencing goes in Iowa, I'll tell you what the code says, and I have it pulled up right in front of me. Indeterminate sentencing when a judgment of conviction of a felony other than a Class A is entered against a person, the court imposes a sentence of confinement and shall commit the person into the custody of the Department of Corrections for an indeterminate term. The maximum length, which cannot exceed limits set by other sections of the code, or shall not be less than the minimum imposed by law. If the court suspends a person's sentence, the court shall order the offender to serve time in the county jail. Now, I listened to the interview last week, and my recollection of the interview last week with the incumbent was that the court is given the option to either do the indeterminate sentence or probation. And I guess I'm not seeing where in this code section it says that. As far as sentencing goes, I don't think it's somebody else's problem. I don't think it's necessarily a judge's problem. I don't think it's necessarily the parole board's problem. I think everybody plays a role in it. And as far as sentencing, if we go into court, into a judge with a low-level plea deal, chances are we're going to end up with a lower-level sentence. There are cases where we could charge the cases higher and end up with a higher sentencing in the end, and I don't think that's being done. As far as the mentality that the prisons are overflowing and they're reserved for nonviolent criminals, if that truly is the case, though I maybe don't necessarily agree with that, why is our jail, local jail, not reflecting that then? Over the course of the last few months, I've been watching our jail logs very closely. The Lyon County Jail houses, on average, about 20% Lyon County inmates. The remainder of the inmates are coming from other counties outside of Lyon, and that includes Lincoln County, South Dakota, federal holds, and other counties. And that's because we have a contract with Lincoln County, South Dakota, to house some of their inmates. I think that's a great thing because it does supplement our budget, but it should be a supplement only. I don't think the taxpayers of Lyon County in paying for our new facility, jail facility, really meant for that to go to house Lincoln County inmates. And so my problem with that is since I've been bringing this point up on my election and in the campaign, I've noticed that suddenly the Lyon County inmate percentage has raised to about 50%. So that tells me that the crime is being committed in Lyon County, but it just wasn't being addressed until this election. And so I think, well, we can put the blame on the judges. There obviously is something in the control of the county attorney's office that is being done because I imagine the judges probably aren't changing how they're doing things for purposes of this election. So I think those are all things that we need to address and things we have available to make sure that people are serving a higher sentence or are actually getting punished. Not to mention, if they do get the indeterminate sentencing and they go to prison, the parole board gets to take over then. And we need to trust that part of the system, that the parole board address the situation because that's what they are trained in and that's what their duties are. But we need to make sure on our end for Lyon County and the Lyon County citizens and the Lyon County taxpayers that we are holding up our end of the deal and doing what we can.
Can you explain in your own words how you would pursue a criminal sentence differently than what you perceive as being done now?
Sure. I have a specific example of a case that I have observed and seen information on that maybe can explain this best. There was this drive-by shooting that took place outside of Rock Rapids a few months ago. The charge in that case, at most, the highest charge received was a Class D felony. A Class D felony carries at most a 5-year prison term. Now, with that being the charge, that's where our starting point is. So we're starting out at a Class D felony. Now, once a plea bargain is entered, if there is plea negotiations entered, typically a plea bargain drops things down. So it will come down to likely below a 5-year prison term, if any prison at all. Had I been the county attorney during that case, I strongly believe that there are facts, to my knowledge, that support the elements of attempted murder. When you have someone who is picking out a weapon out of an arsenal of approximately 80, driving 40 miles to a specific home and targeting something the size of a home and hitting it, and hitting into the home, I think you can make the argument for intent, an intent of murder. Now, my understanding is the counter argument is, well, they don't know that there were people home, so the intent element isn't there. I don't agree with that. That's for a defense attorney to raise at trial. That's the defense attorney's argument to raise, not the prosecutor's argument to raise. So my thought in a situation like that is, because there are facts that can support the elements, you would start at a higher charge, knowing that when sentencing and plea agreements shook out, you may end up at a lesser charge, but it would still be sufficient for the crime committed. And I do have to file a little caveat with that case. That case, from the resources I have available, I have not been able to access public information in that case. And so my information on that case is based off media reports, and those have been given to the media by the county attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and neighboring county agencies that were involved. So that's where my information on that case is coming from. And that's just one example as to how I think we need to start a little bit stronger, start a little bit heavier, tell these people that, hey, we do not accept this behavior in our county. It is illegal. We think more of our people than that. And if we start out a little bit higher, by the time all the other things factor in, as far as the judge's decisions, the plea agreements, the sentencing part of it, we'll end up a little bit higher if we start a little bit higher.
As we kind of turn the corner towards home here, anything that you'd like to close out with?
I would just like to thank everyone who took the time to tune in to this interview. I didn't mention earlier, we had kind of taken this out, but my family, I was raised east of Rock Rapids. My parents are Cliff and Barb. My mom is Barb Hoosier from the Inwood area. I have a brother named Travis who is married to Tia Woods from Elvord, and they live in Sioux Falls. I have my son, Austin. Austin and I live in Rock Rapids. And so as I close, that's just a picture of some of the people in the roots who are important to me and who I want to protect and securing a safer future for the county. And my family is important to me, and I imagine all of yours families are just as important. And I think it's critical that in moving forward in this faster-paced world and this more mobile world, that we stay on top of the crimes that are being committed and make sure we put a stop to it as best we can and keep control of it. And that's something I want to do and feel very strongly about. And I would just encourage you to vote on June 5th and cast your opinion. And I want to thank you in advance for those of you who take the time to do so.
Very good. Thank you very much, Melinda, for your time and answers to these important questions as the voters face a choice here in the June 5th primary for a county attorney. Thank you for your time this morning, Melinda, and for your answers to these important questions.
Thank you so much, Craig.
Well, that was Melinda Folkens, candidate for Lyon County Attorney. The June 5th primary is fast approaching, so we wanted to provide you with the incumbent's perspective as well as the challenger. And we want to encourage you to contact the candidates if you have any questions regarding their candidacy or their incumbency and how they're doing things, and make this important choice here on June 5th for the primary. And I want to thank both Melinda for this week's interview and Shane for last week's to give you those perspectives in their own voice. As we wrap up here for today, again, we want to wish the mothers a happy Mother's Day. I want to say thank you to our teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week and remind you about Baccalaureate this coming Sunday at First Presbyterian Church in Little Rock. Also, we want to thank our good friends at Casey's General Store for the delicious baked goods this morning. We love it. The raspberry flips are delicious as always, and the bakery there is fantastic. So check out Casey's when you're coming through town. Get a donut or get a snack or get a sandwich or a piece of pizza. They have tremendous pizza as well, so I want to thank them for their sponsorship here of the program here this morning. So again, that'll put a wrap on our Mother's Day edition here for the Lyon County News, local talk with a local twist, and want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you again to our special guest today, Melinda Folkens, and to Cheryl and Millie for their contributions in the early part of this broadcast. That's a wrap for us here this week. Tune in next week for more great news from Lyon County News and Lyon County's local news headquarters here at LyonCountyNews.com.